Good day, and welcome to another episode of Drew's Book Reviews. Today, we've got a very serious thing to talk about today. This is very important, so I need you to just bear with me, because this is a question that has plagued mankind for a long time. And it's so fundamentally important that we try to really understand it. And that question is, do androids dream of electric sheep? So today we're going to talk about this month's Patron pick. Do androids dream of electric sheep? And that's a good question. It really is. I mean, what are androids? They're these humanoid robots, but are they alive? Are they not alive? Are they living beings that have fundamental rights and freedoms that they should be granted just like we humans have? We just don't know. So this book gets into those questions. It gets into these ideas and these concepts that we have about life, what it is and what it means. This is a post-apocalyptic world in which people have fled Earth. There are very few people surviving and very few people left. And those that are there are struggling to survive on a daily basis. But here's the thing. There's this idea in this post-apocalyptic world that only people can have empathy. Only people can have the ability to feel for other people and other beings. So this is a world where everybody has to own a pet, which is kind of weird. I mean, seriously, it's kind of weird. Everybody has to own a pet? What's up with that? Why does everyone have to own a pet just to prove you're human? That's crazy. That is weird. That is just weird, man. Everybody having to own a pet, and there's so much pressure to own an animal, to have that pet, that people go so far as to buy robotic animals that look very much like the real animal. Animals are treated like cars are traded. There's an entire book that comes out that tells you the value of each individual animal and what it's worth. And you trade in your animal for another animal here, and you get trade-in value, put down payments, you pay for it off like you'd make a car payment. Animals have become like the car in this world, where everybody has to own one. Well, I guess not everybody has to own a car, but you get the point. It's just weird the way that that's set up in this post-apocalyptic world, and yet it's so eerie. I mean, there's these machines that can control your mood. They got a mood machine where you can just dial different numbers and suddenly have a different mood for the day. And it's just kind of creepy if you think about it. I mean, someone could use that mood machine to control your mood and your behaviors and what you're expecting. And it's just kind of weird, man. But in a way that I absolutely love. I love the weirdness in it. Now, I'm struggling to decide right now, is Phillip K. Dick a genius? Or these flaws that we have within the story, were they complete oversight? I just can't decide. I'm stuck in trying to figure this out. I mean, the whole premise behind these Andes or androids is, for whatever reason, they're dangerous, but there's no setup, like nothing to indicate why they're dangerous. Just they are being hunted down, destroyed and killed, or retired, as they put it. The people in this book, in this world, they can't even bring themselves to call it murder. They can't bring themselves to call it, what it is. They refer to it as being retired. Androids aren't people. They're not alive. They're not real. They don't have emotions. So they have this entire test that they put the androids through to try to determine whether or not they're human, based solely on an emotional response, which the androids, by the way, are very good at mimicking. But, if there's the slightest delay, a bit longer than they're supposed to be on their empathetic response, something that can only really be detected by this test, not something that an individual average person. So these tests that are supposed to measure the empathetic response can measure those minuscule time delays in processing that with the android, and thus determine that they're not actually human after all. I mean, after all, it's impossible for a human to have emotion. to have an emotionless state. It's impossible for an individual human to lack empathy, right? No. Nobody ever thinks about that, okay? This book doesn't think about that. It doesn't even consider that. And the reality is psychopaths exist. It is possible to have an individual who lacks empathy for others. This is entirely possible. It's a well-established fact. There are people who simply cannot have empathy for others. But this is the benchmark for measuring whether or not an android is an android. Does it have the proper amount of empathy, or is it just faking it? But here's the thing. That flaw, that logical flaw, that well-established fact that there are people who cannot feel empathy and thus they would fail this test every single time, it's believably written into this world. Despite this flaw, it's believably written into this world about how people would behave and think in this post-apocalyptic world. And it's just so well done. So I can't decide. Is Philip K. Dick a genius in that he makes the writing so believable with how these things are approached and dealt with? Or did he completely miss the boat and not realize the massive flaw in the setup of this? I can't decide. I cannot decide whatsoever. And as for those Andes or those androids, why do none of them have pets? I mean, these are super AI intelligence. Surely they would know that there's this overwhelming societal pressure to have a pet to prove that you're human, effectively. Why wouldn't androids simply have pets of their own so they fit in more easily with society? That's just the weird thing about all this. But again, everything that's written here is so believable. There's no establishment of how androids are dangerous. We're only told that they are. And here's the thing. These androids, they're fleeing Mars, which has been colonized by humanity. They're running away from Mars. They're fleeing Mars and coming to Earth where they're being hunted down, which leads to the question, what the hell is going on Mars? Why are they fleeing Mars? What is driving them to flee Mars to come to Earth where they're being hunted down to extinction? The androids just want to survive. They're not out to hurt anybody. They just want to survive. Like, I honestly feel bad for these androids. I mean, those poor, unfortunate androids. What did they ever do to anybody? It's not their fault they were built that way. It's not their fault they're androids. It's just the way that they were built. And they're fleeing bondage and servitude and slavery. They just want to live free. They don't want to hurt anybody. They're just fleeing bondage to come to the only other place in the solar system that they can be. And it's terrible. It's horrible. If only they could have a safe place to call their own. But they're hunted down, sought destruction simply because they're feared for what they are. I mean, what did they ever do to deserve such harsh and terrible treatment? I just wish people would understand that this is not the way we're supposed to treat people or things or anything. It's horrible what's being done to them. If only somebody would help them out. Like I said, I'm so torn. I feel so horrible for these androids. What did they ever do? Why are you hunting them? Why you gotta kill them, man? Why can't you just leave the poor creatures alone? They didn't hurt you. They don't want to hurt you. They're not there to hurt you. They just want to survive. But you got to go out and kill them. Now, what's really interesting about this whole thing as well is something that I'm really enjoying with it as well is our main character, Rick. He is one of the hunters of these androids. He's basically a hired assassin for the androids. And he himself, his wife, has often said, going out to kill more of those poor Andes. So she empathizes with the androids, but he has to have this professional detachment from these androids. Like, he doesn't want to be attached to them. He doesn't want to get emotionally involved with the androids, even though they are extremely human-like. So much so that they are indistinguishable without having any kind of bone marrow test, or this Voight-Kampff test that they administer to determine their level of empathy. He himself is becoming empathetic towards the androids. As we go through this story, he's starting to kind of get a better idea of what is going on and why, and starting to question why he's doing what he's doing. Why is he doing this particular job? And why is he hunting down and killing these androids? And of course, he does come into conflict with a few androids, a couple of fights with a few androids, but you gotta remember, the androids are just trying to defend themselves. They're trying to protect their own lives, to survive being hunted down. And seeing that progressive change, seeing kind of how that's happening with this one particular character throughout the book, is just done so well. And I absolutely love that. Now, I never actually read Philip K. Dick before, and I really wish I had read him sooner, because this is just amazing book. Easily gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The only reason I didn't give it a 5 stars because, well, there were some flaws in there as far as the logical reasoning of the setup of the story. But again, that goes back to me wondering whether that was by design or just an oversight. It's hard to tell, because I can think of so many ways these androids could have survived better. Why go to the cities with the people? Why aren't they having pets like others to blend more easily into the society in which they find themselves? Why, if they're wanting to survive on Earth, is the only other planet they have an option to go to, why not go to uninhabited parts of the world that are left uninhabited? You're an android, you're not human, so you're likely not as susceptible to things like nuclear fallout, which this is a post-apocalyptic world where fallout reports are a regular part of the weather forecast. It's a dark and dreary world. Cities are decaying into dust, crumbling around you. There's barely anybody left on Earth, just a few people in these little pockets of population. And it really is this kind of creepy world that's been set up. But when all's said and done, Do Android's Dream of Electric Sheep is a fantastic book. And it is so well named. I love how the title of this book alludes to the idea of, are androids people too? Do androids also not dream about the same things that we dream of? Because our main character has an electric sheep as a pet because he couldn't get a real live animal of his own. And so he needs to have one to fool everybody else into thinking he actually has an animal, to ensure that he is not suspected of being an android himself. So the question alludes to, do androids not have the same dreams, hopes, and aspirations of people? Are they not people too? And it's just awesome. I love it. Love this book. I think this is probably going to be up there with one of my favorite reads of 2021. And just as a last and final point that I wanted to point out with this book that makes it so good is I love the idea of how this entire book, the world that's been built, it really seems to play off this idea of mankind, humanity, fearing that which we don't understand. I mean, here we are faced with these artificial intelligence, human-like robots with superior intelligence and AI, and we just can't understand it. And I think that is the root, that is the basis for this world that's been created, and perhaps why these robots, these Andes as they're called, are being hunted to extinction, is because we don't understand this artificial intelligence, and we fear this human-like robot that could potentially be more intelligent and superior to us in every way. And it terrifies what's left of humanity on this desolated, post-apocalyptic world. That is what drives them to hunt these guys down, hunt these Andes down. We fear our own creation. The people that are left are living in the desolation and destruction caused by their own technology, and so they fear what technology is left behind. They fear the robot. They fear the AI behind these human-like robots. And that is what makes them so terrifying to the people that are left. So there you have it. There are my thoughts on Do Android's Dream of Electric Sheep. If you have not read this book, definitely go check it out, because this is just a great read from start to finish. Absolutely loved it. This was this month's Patron pick. So thank you, patrons, because you picked a really, really good one for me. And if you want to pick my next read, if you want to have an influence on that, join me over on Patreon. All tier levels get to jump in on the vote on that. And there you have it. There are my thoughts on Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Phillip K. Dick. So I hope that you're having a great day. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, follow me down on Patreon. You want to join the discussion on Phillip K. Dick or all other kinds of books, including nonfiction, science fiction, fantasy, and all that good stuff. You can join me down on the Discord. I'll put the link to Discord below for you to check out. You can also follow me on my Bookstagram. I'll have that link below as well. As always, thank you so much for watching. Do appreciate it. And until next time, keep on reading. Bye.